The British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has announced a general election that's a couple of hours ago. It will take place on July the 4th. The Prime Minister was required to hold a vote by January, and he laid out some of the issues facing UK voters.
This election will take place at a time when the world is more dangerous than it has been since the end of the Cold War. Putin's Russia is waging a brutal war in Ukraine and will not stop there if he succeeds. That war has also made it all too clear the risk to our energy security. In the Middle East, the forces of Islamist extremism threaten regional and ultimately global stability.
Now, the recent polls suggest that his Conservative Party is likely to lose and will leave power after 14 years in office. In an announcement, the Prime Minister claimed victory in the UK's fight against inflation, but the opposition Labour Party, which is in the lead, is quick to note the country's anemic growth. Mohammed Hussein is with me. He is the president of Edelman Global Advisory UK, former chief press officer for David Cameron. First of all, as a press officer, were you as surprised, horrified as the rest of us, that the PM decided to have a press conference or to announce this in the pouring rain? I mean, it's a headline writer's delight and dream. Drowning street, wiped out, wet. I mean, what were they thinking?
Yeah, it was really, really bad optics. And in these situations, having dealt with similar things in my career, you always have a wet weather option. But I think it's symptomatic of the wider mood within the Conservative Party. And in the UK, there was some speculation the Prime Minister could call it in the summer, but the prevailing orthodoxy was very much, let's wait a bit longer, see if something turns up, see if some of the better economic data actually has an impact on people and their voting intentions. And it just feels like that has been seen as a too big a risk, and they've decided to go earlier. Essentially,
they've gone earlier because the situation could get worse. Look at the polls. Look at the polls. This is the one we were looking at the moment. Just Tories 25, Labour 39, undecided. Even if all the undecideds go to the Tories, they still lose. Is there any way? Of course there is a way, but is it at all likely that they win? They can win?
No, I think it's very, very unlikely. I think the debate right now is how do you limit the scale of the damage? How do you potentially save 10, 20, 30 MPs, 30 Conservative seats rather than winning outright? Nobody you talk to, when you talk to people privately in government or members of parliament, thinks that winning for the Conservatives is on the agenda. And it is about no real easy choices. Like, the question I think really is it going to get any better than it is now? Right. You've had a bit of a choreography on better news, and then do you squander it and take a risk by going long? And I think that has been the debate in Downing Street for the last few days.
Where did it go wrong? I mean, was it defenestrating Boris? Was it what happened, of course, with Liz Truss? Which bit of all of this finally did them in?
I think it's all of the above. The Liz Truss mini budget and the debacle of her premiership, people are still feeling the impact of it. It does have real world consequences, and that's why the economy has had a lot of work done to it. And the Prime Minister on inflation has been marking that today, but that gets us back to where things were before the Truss economic experiment. And you don't really get thanked for solving problems when it comes to elections. At the ballot box, people want to know, well, what are you going to do for us next? And if people still feel worse off when a slightly worse economic situation, that has consequences. And I think also fatigue, 14 years in power, people feel that perhaps you're running out of ideas or you're just recycling. It's the same faces into different jobs. And sometimes people are looking for something else.
There was this devastating article recently, I forget exactly what Economist or Time or Newsweek or somewhere, which basically said, Britain today is worse off than it was 14 years ago. It was fairly devastating.
Yes, it was. And this will be something you'll hear a lot of in the campaign going forward. It's one of the main attack lines from the Labour opposition, and the government would say there have been geopolitical events, as in things that nobody predicted in terms of the pandemic and the response to that. The government spent billions and billions of pounds paying for furlough, paying for jobs, trying to secure people's lives and livelihoods, or the impact of the Ukraine war and Russia's aggression in terms of energy prices and various things. I think the problem with that argument is that a lot of people, a lot of countries are in that position. And actually, again, when it comes to the ballot box, people want to know what something means for them and
Right.
their families, what it means for money in their pocket. They don't really want to hear about the big geopolitical issues, which are valid, but I'm afraid don't translate at election time.
We'll talk about this much more with you as the election moves on. I'm grateful to you, sir. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
I'll just tell you, that article I was referring to was actually in the New Yorker. It was just to clarify that. Thank you very much.